where we drew.
Fun.
Ooh.
Alright, we are live. Welcome to Expedition to Castle Ravenloft in the 13th Age, Session 3. And the last session, we had wrapped up the Ghosts of Aniel, which was our... Aniel. I keep mispronouncing that. That was our shakedown adventure in order to show some of the 13th Age rules that are different from 3rd and 4th edition, and to kind of wrap our heads around this and what we're doing going forward. However, that adventure is done, and now the gloves, metaphorically speaking, are coming off. So, still, if there are any questions or needs, let me know. But we're going to try and accelerate things a little bit and make sure and try and have fewer rules questions in game. I'll answer them if they're there, but you know, we're just going to try and keep things moving. When we left off, you guys had... I explained how rituals work, and you guys designed a ritual that would allow you to use the gem, the Galadir, to open a portal to the ethereal planes so that you could rescue the town people who had en masse been dragged into the ethereal plane, therefore looking as if they had disappeared off the face of the earth. And you claimed the gem for your own. I believe Heinrich has it.
I actually think we discussed it in between sessions, and I think that Kenthis has it, because he was using it as the ritual focus whenever we opened the portal.
Okay, that works.
I'll go with that.
I will go with that as well. Now, strictly speaking, you guys wouldn't have been able to pull off the ritual without the ritual feat, which only the wizard gets for free.
I actually have it for free also, as a cleric.
Oh, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Okay. So even though Kenthis led the ritual, he wouldn't be able to do another ritual without your help. You'd have to be involved in order for that to go off. And I guess that suits you just fine. Separate the power from the person who can wield it in case you succumb to temptation.
It already corrupted one wizard, or one sorcerer, so.
Yes, the apprentice anyway.
Yes.
So, when, part of the ritual I described involved a lot of mist. And the mist seems to have filled the forest and come up at least to the level of the elevated platforms that the town is built upon. So 30, 40 feet deep fog bank just coming up and over a little bit by a couple of inches, so that every time you walk around amongst the elven town, your feet just cause these swirls and puffs of mist. But it's been several days now, and the overcast skies show no sign of allowing the sun to come through, or at least as through as it would, because the canopy of the forest is so dense that all that you would normally receive is a golden light that filters down. And the mist has not burnt off or slacked in any way that you can tell. So you guys have to get moving on. The Emperor's charged you with this inventory thing where you have to go, census, where you have to continue through the wild woods and on to the next town or hamlet to see if it's still inhabited, what sort of things that are going on there. So I suppose the question is, how do you spend your time for those few days, and what is it that you do next?
Spend our time like the few days that we're inside Aniel, like observing the mist not going away, or
Yeah, do you spend your time doing anything particular there while you're waiting for the mists to leave, or is there how do you use that downtime?
I'll reclaim my little figurine and make it truly fancy, now that I know I have the extra time.
Oh, the figurine carving?
Yeah, the one of the wizard.
All right. Well, given time, you can come up with a pretty good likeness. I mean, it's not going to match the craftsmen of the village with their, decades of experience, but you do a very passable job for a human.
Okay. Good to know.
Well, you're actually playing an elven bard, right?
No.
No,
I've got
that's
the wrong one. That's Jesse.
That's Jesse. Yeah.
No, you're the human sorcerer.
Yeah.
Jeez, why do I have your name crossed out there? All right. Yeah.
Each
So
of us
for
is human, right? Each of us is human?
yeah, everybody's human except for him.
Yeah, okay.
Well, during the next few days, while we're hanging out in this hamlet, I will be handing out like pamphlets and leaflets about my temple, proselytizing a little bit, preaching, holding funerary rites for those who have moved on during this rough transitionary time.
So tell me a little bit about your temple. What sort of things will I find in this pamphlet? Because I don't think that we, aside from establishing that you're kind of the inquisitor type, your healing knowledge comes from torturing people. What kind of god is it that you guys worship? What are the main tenets of your faith?
Well, I am the Grand Inquisitor of the Temple of the Blazing Sun. So we are a sun-based deity-worshipping religion. Specifically, Heinrich is a cleric of the domains of healing, strength, and the sun. So it's kind of a warrior-based religion, I suppose.
All right, so basically it's a bunch of well-tanned dudes running around swinging clubs and swords.
Yes, bros hang loose is one of our. My holy symbol is a surfboard. No.
Well, that would work. So, what are the type of people that you would inquire after?
Heretics, those who abuse magic specifically.
All right.
The Temple of the Blazing Sun burns those, quite literally, in fact, those who would use magic to bring chaos and destruction into the world.
All right. And that's any kind of magic.
Yes, any kind of magic, even divine magic.
Awesome. All right. So, Bryant, how does Heinrich spend his downtime there?
Ember.
Oh, sorry, Ember. Jesus.
I'm actually gonna I'm gonna kind of continue on what we potentially originally came to the town for, is to see how they've seen the effects of the High Druids increase in power. To see if I can find out anything about if they've seen any High Druid agents, if they've seen any of her influence on the area, to see if there's been any inroads from her agents. She's not a huge threat as far as I can see. It's the petty squabblings of certain people aren't as important as things like making sure that the whole world isn't overrun by demons. That's a little bit more higher on my scale of worries, rather than some tree hugging whoever.
Well, the elves give a little bit of chuckle when you ask them about the High Druid and her agents, because really there's not an aspect of nature that isn't an agent of hers in some way, shape, or form. Do they see druids wandering around the forest? Maybe once every great while, but so far as they're concerned, there isn't a bird or a boar or a fox that couldn't potentially report back. But they're not really worried about it, because as you can see, they really kind of, I don't want to say live above it all, but they do kind of really fit that as a purely elven, wood elven place, they really do kind of like fit in. They're doing some gardening, but they're not taking up big space. They're not like slash and burn to make to make these big crops. They're not really trying to be commercial. They're just self-sustaining, and maybe they use a little bit more reclaimed wood and cut down fewer trees for the things that they build. But their way of life really hasn't changed much, and as a result, if anything, their gardens are more bountiful because that's the effect of the High Druid's rituals in infusing this forest with more vitality. They could have record-breaking pumpkins if that's what they wanted. So they're really not feeling the harm, and they're kind of chuckling at yeah, I can see where those people would be having problems. They just don't get it.
Well, what about when the benevolent forces of nature, not only pumpkins are getting huge, but from the looks of it, pigs are getting huge too, from what we saw in the gardens.
Well, simply put, they make bacon. And actually, even though the hunts are more involved because they have to be careful about how they approach it, elves are not purely vegetarian. They eat meat, but it's not it's not something that they eat in the same quantities as say humans do, and they certainly don't hunt for excess. So now they get a little more meat, a little less skin. Or a little more skin. They just have to, the adjustment wasn't that bad for them.
Hmm. And is now I've never been in this particular area before, but is the whole mists thing normal to them? Because at this point, it seems pretty weird to me.
No, not at all. They've never seen mists like this before. I mean, you would get a mist that would come up this high occasionally, and usually it's not so dense that it just kind of levels out like water. Usually it's thicker here, thinner there, and yeah, it can come up this high, but usually it's a gradual diffusion. Whereas this just like a sea of moves like water almost with the ripples.
Other than that, I'm just going to make sure that we have provisions and whatnot to make sure we can make it to the next town. And
these the villagers provide to you gladly. Any rations that you have are restored. In fact, the rations that you get are somewhat more effective. The legendary elven rations. But there's mundane rations there for the most part. You can find dried meats and some root vegetables, things that will store and carry well, and some herbs for spicing, that sort of thing. They do lead you around to where you can get water near the village. This is the mists make it difficult to see more than 15 or 20 feet, but they definitely don't prevent life from going on, except for when are we going to have some sunshine again?
okay.
John,
Yeah.
apart from your whittling, is there anything else that Kenthis might be up to while you're here?
Honestly, he's just chilling out. I can't think of anything.
No,
Excuse me.
that's fine. And you don't have to. But I wanted to give you the opportunity just in case. Alright. So, did you guys have a plan for moving out here, or you just chilling and waiting it out for the moment?
I'm definitely okay with having waited it out for a few days to kind of get a grasp of the mists. I mean, especially after we kind of brought the mists to the area. I know that Heinrich would find that a bit strange. He was already suspicious of the Galadir to begin with. So
And now it's blocking the sun. So
yeah, and now it's blocking the sun. And as a sun worshipping zealot, I find that very strange indeed.
Alright. So after waiting a few days for the mist to clear and going about your business, so to speak, you guys kind of settle into a rhythm, but clearly This is not a natural phenomenon, as you've commented. So, it is to your surprise that a stranger arrives in town on the third day. And he is strangely dressed. He's human, and he wears colorful clothing that the colors hurt your eyes. I don't think that you've seen such bright dyes and colors aside from the finery of nobles, and certainly not in such eye-wrenching combinations. It's almost like a patchwork quilt that's where nobody can cut a straight line, and just all kinds of colors. It's almost virulent in your eyes. You can't look away. And he arrives wounded. In fact, he's bleeding from his side a fair bit. He was hurt by one of the boars that used to wander around before you rescued the town people and they were driven off. And he just kind of trots into the center of the town, and by that I mean center ground level, and collapses amongst the gardens. He may not even have known that they were there if he didn't wander close enough to one tree or another. And in his outstretched hand is a parchment.
Well, I will rush to its side and immediately try to administer some first aid.
All right. We've already established your first aid bona fides. Are you going to use magical healing, or are you just going to go straight to the skills?
I'm going to see how bad it is first with mundane.
Okay. And do remember that everybody did have a full heal up, so you have all your recoveries back, your full hit points. You can swap out your spells if you have spells to swap, and all of that. All right. So you're rolling?
Yeah.
All right. Let me know what you get.
What modifier would I use for this?
All right. So it's a D20 plus your level. I would say it's traditionally wisdom for healing.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, your background bonus for the Inquisitor.
Okay. I got a 28.
Oh, yes. You pull him back from the brink of death. He has lost a lot of blood, but you manage to staunch the bleeding and transport him safely to a bed where he can recover. But in the meantime, you also have the parchment letter. And what would you like to do while you wait for him to recover? Anything?
Read the parchment, I guess. Is it sealed by chance?
As a matter of fact, it does have a seal on it.
What does the seal look like?
The seal has a raven behind balanced scales, like merchant scales. And behind the raven are rays emanating out from behind it. They kind of remind you of how some seals or emblems might have rays coming out from a sun, but the sun is not visible.
Also, I show this to both Ember and Kenthis, noting how strange it is that there's no sun behind there.
And I certainly don't recognize the seal, but maybe it's from a kingdom that I don't know of. But
right,
certainly seems like it's your alley with the whole sun.
Would I have, in my studies of history, would I have seen anything like this in antiquity?
Actually, ravens are not uncommon as a symbol, but this particular combination of symbolism is not something that you are familiar with. And likewise, Ember mentions a a kingdom or something that he's not familiar with this particular corner of the Dragon Empire, and I'll bring up the map again, there really isn't that many cities around. And you're down here, so any messenger would have had to have come from a city that you may not recognize, would have to have come from all the way upriver around the coast. There really isn't anything down here that anybody knows about.
So it's definitely something that's out of our knowledge. The question is, do we wait for him to wake up to see who he wanted to give that to, or do we just open it?
Well, from my healing, do I think he's going to be out for a while?
Yeah, it's going to take some time for him to recover from his wounds. He might be talking in a day or two, but meanwhile, he's going to be getting a lot of sleep and being force-fed a lot of broth.
Then I have no problem breaking this seal and reading his parchment. It was in his hands. Yeah.
Okay.
You're inquisiting the heck out of it.
Yes, I am. He's suspicious. I don't like the cut of his jib.
Hail to thee of might and valor. I, a lowly servant of the township of Barovia, send honor to thee. We plead for thy so desperately needed assistance within our community. The legions of hell itself are at our gates. The dead rise up from their graves and seek to drag us down with them. Not content to slaughter us in our homes, they spread the taint of their horrible curse, so that those they kill join their numbers. There is much wealth in this community, and I offer all that might be had to thee and thy fellows if thou shalt answer my most desperate plea. Come quickly, for our time is at hand, and I shall have... My wife's yelling from the other room, "It's a trap!" Come quickly, for our time is at hand. All that I have shall be thine. And it is signed by Kolyan Indirovich, Burgomeister of Barovia.
Well, a lot of things in that statement, I kind of got lost after, powers of darkness and the undead and that stank of demons to me, and possibly the Diabolist, but possibly something even darker, Lich King, or...
My heresy sense is burning.
Is there any ID on the Rainbow Road man's body? Any form? I mean, I know that there's no driver's license, but like any form of rank or insignia.
No, there's not. He does have a small pack that contains a few rations. He seems to have been on the road for a while because at this point he's traveling light. And he has a few scraps of things that you might travel with, knives, snares, just general travel tools that would make survival a little bit more bearable along the road. Except that maybe he's traveling a little too light to be traveling through a forest. Maybe if he was on a road, this would make more sense.
Well, I think we should take this pretty seriously and go stomp out whatever's crawling out of a hole.
Heresy and demons. I don't like it. I don't think you like it either, Ember.
No. I don't want any more of those things crawling out of the holes. Than I was there when we closed out a hellhole up north, and it wasn't pretty. If we can stop another one of those from opening up, that'd be great.
I think the Emperor would probably appreciate it too.
Probably.
And the Great Gold Worm.
So we are resolved that you are going to answer the call of the letter. Excellent. So from here,
as long as Kenthis is fine with that.
I'm totally fine with that. Sounds good. I would suggest maybe I know you just said we should take this seriously, but maybe we could ask the elves. I mean, they might have information.
Yeah, maybe they've heard of Barovia.
Or this road that we've been hinted at.
All right. So for this, let's see. What would they know? They wouldn't know anything about Barovia, but they would know that occasionally there is, and this is on a very rare occasion, we're talking about a generation back, and with elves, that's a long time. Occasionally there are times when there would be a caravan of people similarly brightly colored, mixture of human half-elves and halflings that call themselves the Vistani that would come around doing some trading. They're notoriously tight-lipped about where they're coming from and where they're going, and they always seem to come and go with a heavy mist. So, the whispers are that this may be a Vistani. And not only that, but people are kind of digging around for some valuables to trade because usually they have good and very unusual things that you just don't see or hear of around these parts. So it's kind of like a potential fair day if they start coming out of the mists with their wagons and their goods.
I'm ready to go. I mean,
All right.
I mean,
Wanderlust, so
we could potentially wait for this guy to wake up, or we could just set off. But we're relatively directionless here. We don't really know which direction to go.
That sounds more logical.
Yeah. I mean, just pick a direction and go. It's, I guess, one option. Or wait a few days for this guy to come around.
It doesn't matter to me. But, well, this is interesting, and it's a good point, because the other group has a ranger, so for them, they could just take off, but then they wouldn't have the opportunity to talk to this guy if he woke up. So, it sounds to me that you guys are going to have to wait, and that's fine. So, a couple of days, he wakes up, and the first thing that he wants to know is, where am I? And thank God I found someone. And here's something else that would stand out to you, because any reference to a god singular without naming them by name, or referring to a hell singular without referring to a specific hell, or more specifically the region where demons come from, because at this point devils aren't really something that's part of 13th Age, although I hear they're coming. I'm just going to choose to ignore that for now and work with the core book as it is. The concept of hell, that kind of afterlife, is capital H hell, is not something that you're familiar with. Different religions may have different places referred to as hells or purgatories for the punishment of the people who believe in that, and then or cross the god, but just a capital H hell sounds weird to you.
Well, stranger, you're in an Aniel. I can't even pronounce the name of the town correctly. It's very strange too. Think God? Singular? Which god do you worship, friend?
This could end bad.
Make sure my holy symbol's like dangling down as I'm leaning over his bed.
He eyes you queerly because that's a question that you don't generally hear that often. But then his eyebrow raises as if a thought has suddenly occurred to him. And he says, "Oh, well," and he gets a really good look at your holy symbol. What does your holy symbol actually look like? I know it's not really a surfboard.
I was thinking kind of like a sun that's sheathed in just like flames. Because it's the Temple of the Blazing Sun.
Yep, well, it makes perfect sense, but I had to check and be sure because it could have been like a sword on fire or something like that. with a sun in the hilt. Yeah. He gets this look in his eyes as if something's just occurred to him, and then he looks at your holy symbol and he brightens up, and he starts giving you a line of patter that's about, oh, we believe this and that and the other thing, and all sounds vaguely in line with what you're talking with what you believe. Now, there's no mention of magic or the abuse of magic, but this sun and protection and things that are just vaguely aligned, and the only thing that he hits consistently is "and this glorious sun."
Well, as a seasoned interrogator.
Oh, he's selling you a line of bullshit.
Yeah, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. I chuckle, like as if I'm laughing with him. Be like, oh yeah, oh so you know all about my god Paylor, huh? Playing along with him. Obviously, I don't worship Paylor.
Well, at the moment that you mention Paylor, he starts getting much more specific. So he at least knows who or what Paylor is,
okay,
and knows something of the tenets of that particular faith.
Okay. So you know all about my god Paylor, I take it.
Oh yes, we know of him where I'm from.
Where exactly are you from, friend?
And he says, well, we travel a lot. We're from everywhere. We're from the wilds between cities. We're from the road.
Well, friend, you seem to have dropped this, and I hold up the parchment, clearly indicating that the seal is broken from the way I'm holding it. Seems like you're in a lot of trouble.
I was hired by the Burgomaster to deliver this to the first likely party of adventurers that I could find. The town is being overrun by undead. They rise every evening and linger during the day, and every day more dead joins their ranks as they slay the living. The townspeople have begun to flee the town into the woods, and those that survive and find their way to our camps are welcome, but something clearly needs to be done before we also are beset.
Well, there seems to be a problem with your story, and that there's no mention of this Barovia from the letter that you have spoken of on any of our maps, and nobody in the town of Aniel have ever heard of this Barovia. So either you're selling us a line of BS, or you're not telling us the whole story, friend.
How about Kenthis sees the trouble brewing here, and I'm going to butt in right here and say, so could you maybe give us some directions to where you need to, where we need to go, and you can tell us along the way. Like, I'm stalling for this guy to have more time to think of whatever story he needs.
You're the good cop. You're the good cop to my bad cop.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna lurk hugely in the corner.
Good cop, bad cop, intimidating cop. All right.
All right.
I'm gonna use all my bouncer skills to look as intimidating as possible.
So this guy looks around, and he sees this dangerous look in Heinrich's eyes. And he recognizes that glint of fanaticism, and he knows that this line didn't fly. Somewhere along the lines, he blew it. And then he sees Ember looming on the side. And just from my headcanon, Kenthis looks exactly like John here. You know, young, probably not used to his power. Sees the scarring from the lightning from when he was struck, Well, other than that, I mean, this is obviously a young kid and possibly naive by the way he just leaned in and tries to tries to do all this, and he spots his mark, but he's not going to get anywhere with you two around. So he's like, well, perhaps we began on a bad foot. Thank you for saving my life. My name is Matthews. Yes, it's possible that you may not have heard of Barovia. We're really a very small town, recently established here in these woods. The name, funny thing, the name is, well, that's another story. The important thing is that we haven't been around for more than 10 or 15 years, and in these woods, we really don't see that many travelers come by, but we have our dead have begun to rise and come after us, and we have no way of dealing with this. We're not warriors by and large. We get by on trade, and we just totally outmatched here and desperately need your help. If you give me a little time to mend,
you're still. See, friend, I don't know if you know where you fell over. You happen to be in an elven village, and these elves, they know the forest better than anyone, and they've never heard of your village of Barovia. Not in the past 10 years, not in the past 15 years. You're not being completely honest with us, Matthews.
Well, he sees that this is not going to go the way that he wants it to. And his face just kind of goes blank for a moment as he considers the situation. And he says, all right, I give up. What's the date? And where am I? I mean, like, what barony or duchy is this?
Give a little, take a little, tell him the date, tell him that he's in the Dragon Empire.
Think about that for a moment. Yeah. For those watching, we've got the side chat up, and every now and then we're making comments that make each other crack up. So he thinks about this for a minute, and then he comes out and he says, well, I don't know when and where that is, so I'm going to take a blind stab here and just tell you that I'm from Fairy, and if you follow me through the magic circle, you can come to Barovia, have our riches, and help us live.
Alright,
This is the GM getting a little desperate, flailing.
Matthews, this is the first honest, semi-honest thing I've felt has come out of your mouth the entire time we've been talking to you.
Alright, I'm going to take Heinrich and Ember to the side for a second. It's a team huddle. I'm just going to say that I know this guy is not...
Ember is indeed terrifying looking.
But okay, I'm just going to encourage Heinrich to maybe play along, because, like, first of all, this could pertain to our mission. Maybe he's a agent of the evil nature druid, or perhaps he is a deeper heresy. And either way, we should follow him and figure it out. Because Kenthis is curious, but he knows he has to get Heinrich on board with this.
I suppose one way or the other, whether it's he's leading us into some pit of demons, or if he's actually looking for us to help him. I suppose either way, going along with him will get us to the root of the problem.
Mm-hmm. I think we could do that, but perhaps have him tied to one of us by a rope.
It burns! Elves twisted it! Nasty elves!
He seems to be willing to lie at the drop of a hat to get what he wants. So I'm already kind of wary of his words, and I think that all of us should be going in. But
Probably a
at
good
the same
idea.
time, I think Ember's right that either way, this does sound worrisome. Either heresy, demons, undead, or worse. So,
Do you actually want to bind him? Because if you do, I'll volunteer to be his, to be, not handcuffed, tied for him.
His escort.
His escort, yeah.
the frailest of us all.
I can afford to be tied up, you know.
Okay, that works. Yeah.
So you can use him. You can throw him in front of you as a shield if it comes to that.
But,
Well, I am something of an interrogator, so I do know how to tie knots really well. So I feel like I could bind him pretty decently if it comes down to that. So I'm cool with that.
I would like to note that if we do ever tie him to me, I'm going to keep an easy access knife on my belt so I can quickly untether myself.
That works.
All
Works for
right.
me.
So it sounds like you guys have a plan here where you're going to treat him with caution, restrain him, and follow his lead while he's under restraint. He obviously doesn't like that idea, but he will abide by it and will agrees to lead you back to Barovia. So you've already gotten your rations, you've gotten everything together. Let's see. Heinrich, I think I really am going to make you roll a skill check in order to establish those knots.
Okay, that works for me.
Alright.
What do you want me to? So my background, I would be tapping would be interrogator. Which modifier would you want me to use?
Alright. Well, I'll give you a choice between dex and intelligence, because certainly dexterity can make it easy to tie a knot if you know how to do it, but intelligence can also establish how to do the knot. So one or the other will be fine with me.
I'm going to go with dexterity. I got a 10. It's not the best knot I've ever tied.
No, it isn't. Alright.
It's hard to tell where the knots are going with that god awful fabric.
Yeah. I threw up halfway through because it was vomit-inducing, his clothing.
Alright. So, just make you know of that.
As Heinrich is tying the knot, I'd like to sort of clap our... What, do we know his name, actually? It was Matthews. I'd like to clap Matthews on the back and whisper in his ear, praise his son. I want him on my side. That's sort of sarcastic, praise his son.
So are we literally tying Matthews to you, or are you just going to hold the other end of the rope?
You can tie him to my wrist. I'm okay with that. That way I still have my fingers.
Alright. So, I guess who's to tie that knot?
I'll
I
tie him.
can give it another go, or you can do it if you want.
I'll take the initiative on tying my own.
Okay.
Let's see. I suppose I don't really... Well, I'm actually a survivalist background. Would that contribute to not tying?
Tying knots could be a very useful skill for somebody in the wild.
Alright, so then I will be getting... I'm sorry. I did.
Got your character sheet up on the wall?
Yeah. Nice. Well, I got a natural 16, and I will just put the number in the chat once I figure it out.
Alright. So the knots are established, and because you fell back on your survivalist background, if not now, because we've been rolling a little slow tonight, not that that's an issue, sometime between sessions, just put a post in the community and let us know where you learned your survival skills or how you learned your survival skills.
Okay.
You know, somebody dropped you in a forest for a week and said if you come out, you're hired. that sort of thing.
Alright.
All right. So, all of your elements in place, you head out into the mists in order to see where Matthews will lead you. And it's only half of a day before Heinrich believes that perhaps you're being led in circles. But just when he's on the point of, oh, geez, that is a nice bonus you got there, John.
Yeah, that's incremental adventure.
All right, so he's just on the point of accusing the Matthews of being a really poor guide, and possibly with ulterior motives, when suddenly your footsteps start falling upon a hard-packed dirt road. And then the mists lighten up as sunlight begins to break through. And then, within another 100 feet, the mists seem to part entirely as you exit the forest unexpectedly soon. This, as far as you're concerned, it's supposed to go on for days and days yet. And you see in the distance, where is that map? Pardon me for a moment. Ah, alright. I see where you are. So you see in the distance, the forest opens up, and it looks like, think of the Gulf of Mexico, mirror image it, and you're coming out of South America into the Gulf, except the Gulf is now plains. So you can see where the plains just kind of go out over field, and there's crops out there and small farms here and there dotting it. And then in the distance, it'd probably take you the rest of the day to get there, you see the town of Barovia, which is not walled in. So obviously they're not too concerned about raiders or invasions around here, because they haven't bothered to wall off the town for defense. And also to your left. Sorry, who was that?
Oh, sorry, that was me. I was just gonna say, does it look like architecture we know of, or does it look completely different, or?
Well, this is more like the cities that you're used to. You can't really tell features from here, but you can see things that are very square, and it's taller than you would expect for pure wood construction. Anything that big back where you come from would involve a fair amount of stone. So there's definitely something that you're not. They're little things that just seem odd, but you're not close enough to be able to tell the difference.
Okay.
All of a sudden, from the forest off to your right, where it continues pretty much straight, the line of the forest, you see a deer run out from the forest and start grazing in the field. But it's unlike any deer that you've ever seen, because its horns, being a stag, it has two of them. And the ears are smaller than you're used to seeing. And the deer and it's got a fluffy white tail. Like, what the hell is that? So if anybody wants to tell me how the deer of the Dragon Emperor's empire, you know what I mean, is different from the deer that you see around you here, go ahead and fill in the blank while I find a map of Barovia that I can send you, because I do have it in a folder somewhere. Give you a general layout of the area without any of the, well, you know.
Is one of y'all better versed in deer than I?
I'll jump off my survivalist background and say that deer in our kingdom would typically have, let's see, I'm going to say they have more goat-like horns. They're thicker, but they're still outward like antlers. I don't know.
I don't know is occasionally acceptable.
More like
Alright.
And from what I remember, what I've seen with deer, they are a lot they're a lot shorter than this one. Well, no, not a lot shorter, but they seem to be a little more stockier than the one out in the field there. That one seems rather rangy and taller, and you know, like you're saying, you know, the ones that I've seen in the woods. Now I'm not a woodsman, but the ears on this one look too small. It doesn't have the right number of horns. It's a little too lanky. Its head's too big. It's just not it doesn't have the right proportions.
All right.
Kind
I
of
found
like a
the
donkey
map
compared
that
to
I
a
want to
horse.
share, but apparently I can't drag and drop it into the session for you guys to receive, so I'll email that to you later. Or I'll finally learn how to use Roll20. We'll figure it out. All right. So thank you for bearing with me for a moment while I tried to make sure I had that. All right. So it's going to take you most of the day. The sun's going to be going down by the time you reach Barovia. How would you like to approach this situation?
I think continuing to be cautious might be smart. I mean, we're already wary of the situation. We don't know if we're being lied to by this Matthews fellow. I think continued caution might be intelligent.
Oh,
All
is
right,
the parchment signed? I don't remember.
Yes,
by
it
the
was.
Burgomeister, right?
Yes. And I had another copy of the seal underneath the signature, the same as what was on the outside of the parchment when you broke the.
So I'm going to ask Matthews about the Burgomeister and about who he is and why he decided to go elsewhere for help.
Well, the town of
something that's different for them?
Barovia doesn't maintain a militia. There are a few people who represent the law in that area, and but generally the people look after themselves, and there's no need for a standing armed force. So they really just don't have the training or the gear to take care of this. The Burgomeister is said to have been a warrior once, and he has trained a few individuals who are interested in learning the art of fighting with the sword, but not so many that could take on a threat of this scale. Aside from being an old soldier himself, Matthews only has a few things that he can tell you about him for sure. He tolerates Matthews traveling people better than most people in the region, and is willing to allow them in town and to engage in trade, and always seems to treat them with respect, even when everybody else treats them with suspicion. He does have a daughter and a son, and they have the family seems to have fallen on some troubled times recently, but he doesn't know the specifics, and he actually didn't speak to the Burgomeister himself. Another member of the clan had negotiated the fee, and then he was chosen to actually carry it by the mistress of the clan, Mistress Eva.
So you're one of these Vistani, whatever, that we heard about back in Aniel?
He's surprised to hear that you've heard the name Vistani, but he says, yes, I'm one of the traveling people, and we wander the roads through the mist, and we trade, we mend, and then he kind of gets a squirrely look. We get by.
I'm listening to this, and I how do I feel about the information he's told us? Do I feel like he's being honest with us, or do I feel like he's holding back? I'm totally willing to make a roll if you want me to.
No. You are a trained interrogator, so I would say both. He's telling you the truth. He's just kind of glossing over something that he thinks you wouldn't want to hear.
So, Matthews, what aren't you saying?
He hands you your holy symbol back and says, we get by.
Is there anything else about the village that we should know, friend Matthews?
Father Danovich is the pastor at the church. I can show you where the best tavern is in town. There's a dry goods store where they sometimes sell weapons that we provided them, and some that they've gotten from other sources. There's the castle.
Okay.
And he points above the forest, and there's a castle above the hill that looms over the forest in the far distance. You can, if you hold your hand out, you can put your thumb over it, but it's definitely a non-natural building on the side of a mountain.
Who lives there?
Yeah, and why don't they give you protection? Why don't they give Barovia protection when they need it?
Well, the master of the castle is said to be cursed, and the castle grounds itself haunted. The townspeople would only seek refuge there in the extreme, if they were extremely desperate. Most people wouldn't even approach the castle for fear of their own soul with the old stories. The Castellan Lucian comes into town occasionally for supplies, but he doesn't speak much of what he sees there.
What's your relationship like with the Burgomeister, Matthews? Your people, do they get along with the people of Barovia? You said that you get by. Does that put you on bad terms with the people of Barovia?
Well,
I take my
there's
holy
always
symbol
talk
back as I say that.
There's always talk about the traveling people, and we are always accused of things that we don't usually do. There's always talk of us stealing children, of stealing valuables, of stealing, and most people don't trust us enough that we feel welcome in town. But the Burgomaster at least seems to treat us with respect, even when others do not.
Is that who you're meant to take us to, the Burgomeister?
Yes, and it's only because he has behaved in such an honorable fashion toward us that we agreed to take on this task. Else we would have left ourselves and left all this trouble behind.
Okay. Well, from a out-of-character perspective, I think I agree with John saying that we should probably, he said in the sidebar that we should probably untie him so that the village doesn't think we're like bandits or brigands or something like that as we approach with this guy that they may recognize, and I totally agree with John.
Or slave masters or something like that.
Yeah. Hey, we've got this Vistani for sale. I definitely
How
think
much is that Vistani in the window?
I
All
think
right.
that might be a good idea, but before we let him go, Heinrich's going to threaten him that if he turns on him, Heinrich will hunt him down and burn him for heresy.
Are you also the one that lets him out of his rope?
John, you have a good relationship with him. You can let him out.
Yeah, I cut the
Heinrich
rope
will
the
just stand
moment
there with his arms crossed, glaring.
Yeah.
He sees you reach for a knife to cut the rope, and he says, "No, no, no, please. It's you shouldn't ruin such a fine rope." And he hands his end of the rope to you.
Heinrich doesn't even look mad. He just looks impressed. He's like, okay. It was poorly tied, to be fair.
And Kenthis's rope looks impressively difficult, but he built into it a quick release with that massive check of his that only he knew how to do. And with a twist and a yank of a particular loop that seemed to be very tight, all of a sudden it just falls apart.
I'll toss the rope to Heinrich with an appropriate taunt about his time skills.
Hey guys, I was just having an off day, alright?
Matthew rubs his wrists and looks at you all and says, "I said that I would guide you, and I shall, even though the town is clearly and plainly in sight before you. But we must hurry, else we will not make it before the sun is behind the mountain."
Does something bad happen when the sun goes down?
It is not wise to be wandering out in the open at night. The woods and the plains have become more dangerous of late.
Can I recommend that we jog the rest of the way if possible? Before the sun goes down?
You may absolutely double time it. You can get there in about half the time, but I'm going to ask, so plenty of daylight in order to make introductions and do whatever else that you would like to do. However, I'm going to ask for a check from each of you, Constitution-based. No penalties for you heavy armor wearers. If you have anything that suggests that you can double time it over long distances, then absolutely add that background in. Let me know what it is.
Would I be able to stretch survivalists to that, or maybe not?
No, I'm looking more for along the lines of someone who does a lot of traveling, particularly in army. If you were a member of an army infantry where you would have to move quickly because it's your life, and also the element of surprise, that's the first thing that comes to mind, but that doesn't mean that there can't be other things. I believe that
I might have.
Ember might, yeah, because of the things that you were talking about with your background.
Yeah, with demon hunting, and I have made the one trip into the hellhole, and we had to get in and get out fairly quickly because with the amount of demons in those places, you gotta, if you're trying to make a tactical strike, you really gotta be able to move.
Yeah, and your background includes the Crusaders' forces to some degree, so that's why I was thinking that for you this makes sense. Yeah. So that background that deals with the Crusader and your time with his forces, what was that called again?
It was what did I put it down as? I had just have it listed as a demon hunter, but I was demon hunter for the first forces of the Crusader is
all right.
One of the things that's in there.
Now, had you put anything into icons for relationship dice? I know I said
+1 for the Crusader and -2 for the Diabolist.
Okay. So in this case, I'm going to experiment a little bit with trying to start adding in icon rolls as the situation seems appropriate. If you like, you can roll your d6 for your icon Crusader relationship. And it may be possible that you have, let's say, a magical item that would make this more likely that you could do this. You may not even need to make the check.
All right. Let me grab a d6. I got a 6.
All right. Free and clear, if you want them, you can have Boots of Speed. You won't even need to make this a check, and I'll send you something in between sessions about how they work.
I'll take them because that'll bring me up to 3 items. So I will
Okay.
take them.
Awesome. So we have the results in the background here. So Kenthis rolled an 18, and Heinrich rolled a 22. So I'm going to say that Kenthis, you just double check these here. All right. Yeah. You make that. You both do. So what I had in mind here was that if any of you rolled particularly poorly, you would just have lost a recovery. You still would have made it, but you would have been a little bit lower on resources than expected. The Vistani manages to keep up very well. Thank you very much. So, you arrive at the town of Barovia, and the road comes into the town from the south, and this appears to go directly through the center of the town and out the other side, although that is quite a distance, and the road itself is obscured by several townspeople just milling about their business. Oh, here we go. The hard-packed road enters the village of Barovia from the... Oh. Really? This map is sideways. I never noticed that. Okay, let's amend that. The hard-packed road enters the village of Barovia from the east. In the distance ahead, you hear shouts, screams, and the unmistakable clamor of battle. The street appears to be full of silent villagers shuffling toward the sound of the disturbance. What do you do?
Let's go find out what the hell's going on. Actually, we can ask Matthews if he knows what the hell's going on. Continuing to jog towards the disturbance, I think.
Yeah, grab our weapons while we do so.
Yeah.
Matthews urges caution because he says the dead don't always wait until nightfall, particularly when their numbers are great. So you want to be really careful when you approach these first few people.
You think these are the dead that you have warned us about, Matthews?
I don't know these people well enough to tell you. They could be.
I turned to Heinrich and said, hey, easy test. Use that spell that you used to get rid of the apprentice.
Oh, the...
hurt anyone else, will it?
Turn undead? No,
Yeah.
only if you're undead. Oh, yeah.
That's also a daily spell, so unless he memorized that multiple times, he could be wasting a very potent weapon against the undead.
Potentially. Potentially. I can also tap my Invocation of the Sun to regain it after the battle. But that's also a daily to do that, so...
Or you could just threaten the swords and see if they like flinch.
Well, I will kind of jog ahead a little bit, because undead piss me off, because they're a heresy in my book. And ignoring Matthew's words of caution.
Alright, so you go right up to the nearest villager?
Not necessarily to the nearest villager, but to the vicinity of where this battle is taking place, to try to take in what's going on quickly.
Alright. So you jog up to straight up the center of the road, and as you start passing people, you kind of slow down and walk backwards a little bit and try and get a look at them, and They seem to be reacting to your presence by veering in your direction. And you can see on many of them, they're wearing clothes that have seen better days, but certainly hard use over the last couple of days. And their faces and flesh are gaunt, and
Okay.
their features are kind of drawn tight. If they were drying out or slacking a little bit, where maybe they're just starting to slough off. You have definitely just walked into the middle of a pack of undead.
As I thought.
So at this point, I want to address this as kind of like a montage. You have, think of Shaun of the Dead. They're trying to get through the center of town to the bar to wait this thing out. But you're each going to do something to try and contribute to your travels through the center of town to get to where Matthews is trying to lead you. And for that, I'm going to say roll initiative, just so that we have a clear order here.
Ooh, nat 20. 25.
Alright, so... Oh, this is always helpful. Alright. So, let me get these guys down first. And that was Ember has a 25. And Kenthis has a 7. Really, a 7? That's with your dex and your level bonus?
It's awful. I rolled a 2. So.
Okay. And what does Heinrich have?
I have a 19.
Okay, Ember. What do you do to help get everybody through safely?
Well, I'm going to do what, as a bodyguard, I had to do several times, and basically bring my shield up and plow my way through to safety.
Kind of like follow me, stay close, and you just start
Yep.
block tackling everybody.
Yep. Just pushing these scraps of flesh that are probably half my size out of the way and going towards where it seems to be safe.
Alright. So, I want you to make a skill check. This is definitely going to relate to your bodyguarding background and your past, which is tied with the Crusader and all that.
Yep. And adding strength?
Yeah, I would say strength.
Okay. Oh, that's not a good roll. 12.
You know what? Your boots of speed lend you a little bit of momentum. You can reroll that if you like.
Okay. Much better. 21.
Alright. So, alright. So Ember, who's this huge man, and the picture you put in here is great. He's kind of built like a NFL linebacker to begin with, but now he's got his big shield out, and he's moving twice as fast as anybody else in the party, and he's just and he just sights another target that's in your straight line and charges it and pushes it back. And the zombies are very poorly coordinated at this stage, so they just kind of stumble and fall down, and they're really kind of slow to get up again. So he starts carving a path of downed zombies through the center of town, and he gets you to a point where you can hear the rallying cry of a soldier in the center of town, which is not something that you were expecting from Matthew's description. After Ember, Heinrich, what is your contribution to this?
Well, my because of my sun being a cleric of the sun domain, my sword automatically does holy damage. And not only that, I do know the spell Javelin of Faith, which is a is an at-will spell. So I imagine Heinrich's just kind of running behind Ember as he kind of creates a gap, just wildly swinging his sword, blasting zombies in the face with his holy symbol, shooting out a javelin of faith, kind of behind him, just kind of closing or blasting away and slicing away the zombies that would be closing in on Kenthis behind him, and also I guess Matthews as well.
So you're not just covering his back; you're also like, and stay down.
Exactly, yeah, keeping them dead.
Let's
Culling
put a pin
them a
in
little
this.
bit.
Whoosh. All right. So how would you phrase that as a skill check? Is there something that you would?
You know, I don't know.
Well, you know what? You don't necessarily have to use a specific skill. You're making a check. I would say that this is probably wisdom because it's tactics. He's
Okay.
doing the heavy legwork, and you're picking the low-hanging fruit after he blows through this place like a hurricane.
Okay.
So, all right.
All right, I got a 26.
All right, more than enough. And now you're within sight of the center of town, where where a low wall of refuse, about 4 feet high, has been people piled furniture, and they've large tables and doors from houses, and they've erected this makeshift wall for the town center of town where other roads radiate out from. And at the top of the wall, you see the zombies trying to crawl up and over it and overwhelm the wall, but there's townsfolk defending literally with pitchforks, hoes. Some of them have old swords, and some of them are just swinging half-empty sacks of grain to knock the zombies back. And in the center of it all, you see this figure in shining mail that is now somewhat tarnished with the blood and ichor of undead flesh that's been splattering on her as she carves a path through the zombies, leading the resistance and trying to keep the townspeople emboldened to maintain the defense. But you still have to, and she sees you. She sees you guys working your way up through the center, and she's like, "This way, over here!" And then she turns and shouts orders, and you see some people hastily trying to clear a path for you to come through. And she just kind of jumps right into the fray right there and starts hacking at zombies and cutting off arms and cutting off heads, trying to clear this area so that you can actually get in. And that means Kenthis is batting cleanup.
Right. I will. Let's see. So are there any zombies behind our group, kind of closing in on us, maybe?
Oh yeah. Now that you're closer, the zombie mod is thicker, and they close in quicker behind you.
Okay.
So Heinrich is actually doing a pretty decent job of covering everybody, as and widening that gap that that Ember is opening up for you. So at this point, it's kind of up to you to guarantee that you guys are going to make it the rest of the way.
All right. So there are zombies between us and our goal, though, that need to be moved.
Oh yes.
Okay.
This is where their thickness. It's like every zombie in town is shambling towards this central point.
All right. So this is technically one turn, so I do not have time to gather power. Is what I'm getting from it. So I will just do.
Well, I'm guessing that you probably would have gathered power on your way through town, waiting for the opportunity to just unleash.
No, it's like a. Do you know about that ability? Or?
I think it's a standard action,
Yeah.
and you get a defense bonus, but when you unleash your spell, it's double damage.
Yep.
But does the spell have to go off the next round?
Yes.
Okay. Well then, no. You'd have to gather power now.
All right.
Right.
Well, I'll skip that and just cast. I'll just run forward and try and clear the barricade so that we can get through. with a lightning fork. And that's a chain.
Alright. Well, we're not actually doing attacks at this point, but we could frame that chain lightning as a skill check, and it's not going to drain your spell for later on.
Okay. For that, charisma then? Or what would you call that?
Well, all of your spells key. What are your spells key off of? And your attacks.
Actually, Constitution because of a feat I took. So.
Yeah. And that makes sense that you gain powers from lightning strike anyway. So.
26.
Oh yeah, very handily. So, you kind of wait until Ember dodges left to take care of somebody, and you just pop out to the right a little bit and go full Emperor Palpatine, and just a sheet of lightning emanates from your fingers, and all the zombies within a 30-foot cone in front of you just start dancing like they're being electrocuted in the spot. And the armored woman jumps back as some tendrils of electricity just kind of lick at her armor. And she falls back into the opening, and the way is clear. And you guys just run straight through, and the villagers pile in stuff to close it up real quick. And you are left face to face with the woman who is leading the defense of the town, as she pants and eyes you and says, "So at last the Burgomeister's message has gotten through. We gave up hope. Matthews left weeks ago."
Are you the only one left? Why isn't there a whole army here battling back these evil forces?
There never was an army.
Why haven't you solicited help from the castle?
And her lips compress for a moment, and she says, "I am perhaps not the one to answer that question. I too am a stranger here, and have not been for more than a month."
And who are you, ma'am?
"I am Ashlyn. I am a Lightbringer and Paladin of Pelor."
Heinrich actually does start laughing.
I am not from these lands. My companions and I came here seeking an artifact of my temple, and we have been mired in the defense of this town. The undead have stepped up their attacks, and they now seem to be coordinated and focused upon breaking through our defenses. Their numbers have grown to a point where I'm considering that our best option here is retreat.
There certainly are a lot of them. Where are they? Are these all the dead from this town, or do you think they're coming from further afield?
A majority of the dead when we got here, this menace was just beginning, and the first undead were those that had recently died within the last few weeks, and it seems that disease is no stranger here. It seems that somebody's always dying, one week or another. That there's almost constantly funeral bells going on of late. However, now some of the older dead have been rising, and we've seen those that are longer dead, let me put it that way. And of course, the bulk of their number now are people who have been recently slain since this plague has begun. We cut them down at every chance that we get, but quite often they begin moving again and rise to trouble us. Only when they are truly hacked to pieces or their head is destroyed, do they cease troubling us. And I fear that there are still some people who are trapped out there in the town, as they insist on going back when things seem quiet to retrieve valuables and to check on those that may not have made it to the safety of the center of the village. In fact, my companions, excuse me for a moment while I find that note. Because they have names. There it is. My companions, Thendrick and Matilda, had left the safety of this sanctuary a few days ago because they thought that they had an idea where the menace was centered upon, but they have not returned. And I fear that they may have need of my help. But I can't leave because I've been charged with defending these good people.
Well, that's heavy. Well, first things first. Thank you for letting us know what is befalling Barovia. I am Heinrich, Grand Inquisitor of the Blazing Sun. And I flash my holy symbol at her. It's kind of like my badge.
She does not recognize your sect.
That's fine. This is my stalwart companion, Ember. And this is the young sorcerer, Kenthis. We've been brought here by Matthews, and turns out that he's not a liar. This is indeed bad.
At least with this.
Yeah, well, he's not a liar about this.
Well, she eyes him warily and says, No, I suppose that he would not be. Where are we here? That's where we are. And she says, I would speak with you at length about what it is that we might do about this menace, but for now the attack presses on and I must see to rallying the townsfolk and leading the defense. Will you join us?
How can we help?
Kill them all.
Gladly.
The zombies. Kill all the zombies.
Oh, the zombies, yes.
I run my sword through Matthews. You mean like this?
And at that moment, one of the townsfolk goes, "Ah!" Wilhelm scream, and kind of freezes in place and topples over, petrified, off the top. And you see a couple of magical bolts of energy go up over the wall, missing other defenders in their makeshift gear as they fight off the zombies. And the attack continues on. So I'm going to roll initiative for the monsters. You guys will still continue to act on the initiative that you have, because that's just easier. And I need... And this is where things get interesting. Because there's only 3 of you. Which actually means part of that was... Boom, 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 boom. Alright. So I just need this. That's going to be... a 15. And... Awesome. Everything on one page. Great. Couldn't ask for better. So... Alright. Ember, you're still first up. So, it seems as though the zombies are surging towards the wall, and they've got some sort of backup behind them that has started assailing some of the common defenders with magical bolts. What do you do?
Um, good question. So we're inside the barrier, and there's a whole piles of zombies outside of it, and then somewhere behind them is some sort of magical backup, right? That's basically what you're saying.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to go basically to where the villager fell off the pile, and basically start my way in there.
Okay. As you crest the hill, as you crest the makeshift wall, you see a couple of things that are new that you didn't see on your way in. First, in the back, behind the zombie mob, is a skeletal figure that seems to be hurling magical bolts of green fire at people who are on the wall. He's not singling out anybody in particular. There doesn't seem to be any pattern to it. It's just, oh, whoosh, and it's only hitting maybe once out of 4 times, but every time he hits somebody, that person freezes up and then kind of topples over, and it's one less defender on the wall.
All right. I'm gonna try and basically do the same thing that we did to get in here, and because that guy's clearly the biggest threat.
Yes, he is. But you can see that if you're not careful, you may get stranded out there because the zombies are starting to press in thicker than before when you came in.
True.
Go for it. I got your back.
Or as they say, the group I just left, I got your back, way back.
But then remembering our escapades in the elf houses, and how things went when we were split then, I think I'm going to decide against splitting the party, and maybe I'm going to duck back down behind the barrier and tell tell the villagers around me, don't go up there. There's it's too dangerous right now.
All right. So you shout at the villagers and tell them to stay low and not go up above the wall where they might be hit. And the ones that are up there and fighting off the zombies start to retreat. And then one of them curses as a zombie bites into its arm, and then he tumbles backwards into the center. And now it is Ashland's turn. And she severs the arm of a zombie and starts trying to rally people back up top. So you're like, come down, get out of the way, get out of the line of fire. And she's like, forward, defend your homes, don't let them come breach the walls. And you've just sown a little bit of confusion here, and that people don't know who to trust at first because you're the heroes that just arrived to save them, but she's been here leading the defense and doing a really good job, but they don't want to get eaten by zombies, so maybe you're right and they'll be safe back here. And then we move on to, let's see,
Whoops.
That's 1, 2. Then we move on to Heinrich.
Well, I look at the guy who just fell and shout back, somebody keep an eye on him! And then I shout to the remaining defenders that are back here, come on, you dogs, do you want to live forever? And run and jump over the barricade straight into the zombie horde, and then explode with turn undead.
All right. So, turn undead, is that an attack roll?
It is.
Awesome. Let him have it.
Okay. Are we still like in montage mode, or how do you want me to do this?
No, we are out of montage mode into straight up combat.
Okay, cool. Okay.
I should just put a bookmark in where turn undead is, because I'm sure that we're going to be seeing that a lot.
Okay. Well, for me, it is 1d4 nearby undead foes with less than or equal to 90 HP. So,
Awesome.
do I even trigger it on that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This is all right. Go ahead.
I rolled my d4 just to see how many I got. I got 2, sadly. And for my roll, do you want me to roll 1d20 for each of their mental defenses?
Well, I'll tell you what. Hold off here a minute, because this may not be your best move, because one thing that we didn't cover before was mobs.
Okay.
Okay. So mobs here act as a single thing that has multiple people in it, but they all kind of share the same hit point pool.
Okay.
So in this case, the mob, each individual zombie has 12 hit points. So every time you deal 12 hit points to the mob, another zombie falls off.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, you attack the mob, and then I describe bodies flailing and dying and all over the place. And this is really for exactly the sort of thing that you're doing. Just taking that running leap in the middle of a crowd and pulling down 5 other people with you, and then getting up and cutting them all up to bits.
Okay.
Given how powerful Turn Undead is, it really isn't. I think that you're so overkill here.
Okay. Well, I will take your advice then, and not use it this turn. I will just swing my great sword of abandon with abandon then, and take advantage of my great sword's once per battle ability. Yeah, I'll just swing my great sword.
All right. Can you remind me what that once per battle ability is?
Yeah, my greatsword has once per battle. For my first attack each battle, I deal plus 2d6 damage.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's perfect for this.
Okay, and then I think I'll also invoke my my strength domain. Free once per battle. I can deal an additional. Well, it's actually only to one target, so never mind.
Well, the mob is one target.
Oh, well then I deal an additional 48 damage to one target in melee. So I'm just gonna go crazy and just destroy this mob if this hits.
You're gonna pull something just trying to describe the mass destruction that you get in here.
All right. Well, let me roll because I couldn't completely flub it. So I got a nat 20.
Oh, so now you're gonna deal double damage.
And
figure all this out with the bonuses and everything, you're still going to multiply all that times 2.
Okay. What's just for simplicity's sake, can I ask for the target number of HP I'm looking for, just to tell you if it's gone, period, or do you want to keep
12 per zombie.
Okay. And how many zombies are there? Or do you not want me to know?
I pegged the mob at 20 for this fight scene.
Okay.
So that's 240 hit points.
Okay. I think I'm going to use a digital dice roller for this, just because...
Ouch.
Yeah, hold on.
Alright, while he's figuring out his damage, and we can come back and apply that after the fact. Oh, actually, the monsters go next, so we really do have to wait. So give me a second, guys, and let me see what happens here.
Sorry.
No, that's alright. It happens.
And then I multiply this by 2, is that right? All
Yes.
of the damage dealt?
Yes.
Okay. 114.
Holy cow!
Oh!
I'm crazy. I just waded in. I really hope that I've inspired the townsfolk to fight at this point.
126 hit points remaining. So you kill off 10 zombies in like 6 seconds. So I want to hear how this happened. Because that's pretty badass.
I yell my inspiring quote from Starship Troopers and then jump over the barricades with my sword ready, and I run up to the first zombie and just swing and cleave its head off, and I find out that that's really effective if you just take the head off. And so I decided to keep replicating that, and another zombie comes up, and I'm like, I'm going to try it again, because it seemed to work really well the first time. So I do it 2 or 3 more times, and then I get mobbed, and I think, well, I'm mobbed, and they're all around me. There's only one thing to do, and so I grab my sword and just spin in a circle. I don't think it's gonna work, but it ended up taking down 6 in one swing. So
It shouldn't work. It's just so stupid and simple. It shouldn't work.
but it did.
Rolls a 20. I hate this game. Well, everything seems to be going according to plan. But then there's one zombie that seems smart enough to duck. And then you see that even though he shares kind of that undead-like appearance, that he doesn't smell half as bad, or even look runny like some of these zombies. He looks a bit better preserved, and he's got this dark, earthy graveyard smell to him. And he ducks under your attack, and he slams into you with the strength of the damned. Carp. That's not very inspiring. A 15 against your armor class?
Miss.
Alright. So, it's exactly that. He swings and misses. Wow. All that's set up for nothing. Zombies go. Everybody gets attacked. So, we're going to start with Ember. That's only a 10 against the armor class.
Nope.
Heinrich. That's going to be a 24 against armor class.
Yes.
Alright. You take, because he rolled a natural 16 or better, he gets a bonus. You take 9 points of damage. And the zombie attacks you with his rotting fist, and he hits you, and a piece of his fist falls off. Just kind of as he hits you in the armor, and he kind of bashes you around a little bit. You see bits and pieces flying off the zombie as he puts in more force than his frame can sustain. And then Kenthis, a zombie crests the hill and comes down after you. He has a natural 19, so that's a 26 against your armor class.
Alright. That was a hit.
And just like the other one, he's going to deal extra damage to you and to himself. So he's going to deal 8 points of damage.
Okay.
And another zombie falls to the villager's defenses. And then one goes after Ashlyn, hits her. And then I believe that's all of you that are fighting. Yeah, that's all of you. So then, after the zombie mob goes... I really should keep track of how many zombies there are instead of just hit points. I got a plan for that, but I can't do it now. Kenthis!
Alright, so that magic using zombie skeleton thing, he's in the back still?
Yes, all the way in the back.
And
He's at far range.
there are zombies around him, correct?
Oh, yes.
Alright. Now, can I cast 2 spells in one turn if one of them is a quick action?
Sorry, what was the question again?
If one of my spells is a quick action, can I cast 2 in one turn? if the other is like standard.
What's the spell?
I would like to cast Dragon's Leap to get to the skeleton, and then cast a combat spell once I get there.
Alright, let me take a look at this because I'm not familiar with it. What level is it?
Dragon's Leap is a 3rd level spell.
Oh, there we go. Oh, absolutely, you can do that.
Alright. So, I will just
So you can have the distance. You can have the distance and get closer.
Alright.
But that's going to land you right in the middle of a mob.
When it says nearby enemy, would he be considered nearby at the distance I can get to?
Nope, I said far.
Oh. No, after I leave.
Yes. Nearby would be... yeah, you could do that.
Okay. So, I'll...
But he's going to have a lot of cover from the zombies between you and him.
That's alright. I have the Elven Shadows, so... yeah, I think it'll work.
What's Elven Shadows?
I do 8d6 plus Charisma psychic damage, and if the natural attack roll is even, then I can teleport to a location I can see, a nearby location.
Okay. And that's a standard action?
It doesn't specify, so I assume so.
Where's that?
It is a 5th level spell. All the other, I'm looking at the SLD, and all the other ones are specified if they are not.
Oh, the Queen Shadows. Got you. Alright, yeah, that would be a standard action because it involves an attack.
Alright. So,
So you're talking a quick action to leap, a standard action for the Queen's Shadows, and then if you're successful, that puts you right next to this thing.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
no. I would prefer not. I would prefer to teleport somewhere not next to that thing. So I'll just, leap over the wall, land somewhere near that skeleton, and then cast the Elven Shadow. So I'll roll my attack for that. And then...
Oh, we just lost John.
Oh no.
And now I still have a steady hissing in the background, so it wasn't just him. I thought it was, because when he put himself on mute. Let me invite him back in.
Yeah.
We're going to finish up this battle, and then we'll call it a night. We're going to go over just a little bit. John, can you hear us? I think he was using an iPad to join us. Try chat. Oh, he's gone. I really like the string of action that he's putting together right now. That's neat. It's impossible for me, because I went straight into this as a DM. Very difficult for me to go in and just know everything everybody can do. So as you guys start using stuff, I'll learn the capabilities of the different classes that you're using instead of me sitting down and trying to cram it in myself. But this is also pretty badass. But less so than what Heinrich did because he didn't have any magical ability to carry him from behind the barrier 30 feet into the mob.
I realized after the fact I have my Invocation of Strength, which is it's a daily spell as a quick action, and if I had done it beforehand, all of me and my allies' crits would have been ×3 instead of ×2.
Ooh. I think because of John's technical issues, we're going to call it a night now. And then we will resume with his action and rolling when we come back in 2 weeks. We're going to do Tuesday again, and if Jesse's here, he will have been with you all the time, and we'll just have him roll initiative and jump in from there. And I'm going to clean up what I'm doing with the mob. What I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a bunch of checkboxes and a note so that I can just check stuff off, and I know when to narrate somebody dying when all this little damage comes in, like missed damage and stuff like that. And I think that'll work narratively. I think that'll work a little bit better than what I was doing here, because I feel like I kind of lost track of that. And that's it. John's out again. All right. Thank you to everybody who was watching tonight. All 2 of you. Maybe. I got a counter down here. I just keep forgetting to look at it. And we'll be back again in 2 weeks.
I can't let a